Do you want to expand your vocabulary with natural expressions that native speakers use so you sound more advanced, fluent, and natural in English? Well, that's exactly what you'll do in this lesson. Let's get started. First, let's talk about the most common alternatives to saying thank you so you can sound more fluent and natural.
So let's have a situation where you could say thank you. Well, I have this free speaking guide that I give to my students. So if you haven't downloaded this yet, I want you to download this for free. Just go to my website, jforrestenglish.com, and you can download your free guide, How to Speak English Fluently and Confidently in 6 Easy Steps. So this is the reason why I get the most thank yous from students. They download the guide and then they reply to the message and they want to thank me. So why don't you try that? Go download this guide and then you can send me a message using one of these other expressions. How fun will that be? Okay, so of course you could say thank you. Now, there's one really easy way that you can just turn this simple thank you into a really natural expression. And I'm sure you know it. You can simply say thanks. Thanks. So one word, right? Thanks. And of course, we're adding that S on thanks. The S is not optional. We don't have the S on thank you. It's not there. It's never there. But we have the S on thanks. So thanks. And then if you want to be really friendly, you can add an exclamation point or an emoji smiley face afterwards. Thanks. Okay, so that's a really simple, but definitely the most natural way. That's absolutely how the majority of native English speakers are going to thank you. Thanks. Okay, another one. This is taking our thanks and just adding 2 simple words to it. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. So this one just really adds that emphasis to the thanks. And you can still add your smiley face emoji or exclamation point afterwards as well. Thanks so much. All right, next, you could use the expression thanks a ton. Thanks a ton. Okay, so a ton in English is like a slang way of saying a lot. For example, you can say, oh, I have a ton of work to do. I have a ton of emails to reply to. I have a ton of reports to read. I need a ton of money. So we're just using a ton to mean a lot. And this is something that native English speakers do all the time. So there's a little bonus expression for you that you learned today. So we're taking the same concept, and of course you can say thanks a lot. That could be one of these expressions, right? Thanks a lot. But just to sound that much more natural, that much more like a native English speaker, you can say thanks a ton, which simply means thanks a lot. The next one, this is a really fun expression. It's really cute, but definitely it's not slang in any way, so you could use this in any situation. Thanks a bunch. Thanks a bunch. Okay, now a bunch can be used in just the same way as a ton. So they both mean a lot in slang natural English. So you can say, I have a bunch of work to do. I have a bunch of emails to reply to. This laptop cost me a bunch. I wish I had a bunch of money. So again, it means a lot. So you can say thanks a bunch, which means thanks a lot. But I like this one because it's cute. Thanks a bunch. Okay, another one. This is a really great expression, and I'm sure you'll kind of understand the meaning if I said thanks a million. Thanks a million. Well, a million is a lot, right? If you had a million emails in your inbox, you would have a lot of emails. If you had a million reports to write, you would have a lot of reports to write, right? So by saying thanks a million, we're really just saying thanks a lot because a million is a lot, right? So really, these are 3 different ways of simply saying thanks a lot. But just notice it's all a ton, a bunch, a million. So they all need the article a. And of course, they're all thanks, thanks with an S. Okay, so there's 3 different ways to simply say thanks a lot. And the last one, this one, it doesn't even use thank you or thanks. And because of that, it might be one of my favorites just because it's a little bit unique. It's a little bit unexpected, but definitely still very popular, very common, very natural. And it's you're the best. You're the best. So, for example, let's say my friend surprised me and came over to my house and brought me my favorite chocolate chip cookies. Of course, I could say, thanks so much. Thanks a million. Thanks a ton. I can absolutely thank her, but I could also say, you're the best. You're the best. And at the same time, this implies the thank you, and it implies that I'm really happy, right? So because it's a little bit unique, I feel like it has a stronger meaning to it. So again, when you go download this speaking guide, this free guide, you could write back in your email and you could say, teacher, you're the best. Jennifer, you're the best. Or of course, you can use one of the other thanks expressions that I taught you. So there you go. Now you have a list of all these other ways to say thank you. So again, make sure you go download your free guide and then practice one of these expressions. And why don't you just leave it in the comment as well? Get that extra practice. Let me know which one of these expressions are new to you. Or do you know any other ways to say thank you? Because let me tell you, this is not an exhaustive list. There are definitely other ways, but these are my personal favorites. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. You're the best. Now that you know how to say thank you naturally, let's talk about how to say you're welcome naturally as well. First of all, let's start with you're welcome. You're welcome is absolutely a natural expression. I use it all the time. In fact, if you look at the comment section of some of my past YouTube videos, a lot of students do thank me. Thanks for the video. Thanks so much, teacher. Thanks for the great expressions. And I generally write back, you're welcome. That's pretty much the standard reply that I use. So you can absolutely use you're welcome. However, there are times when maybe you're welcome sounds a little too formal, a little too stiff, or you simply want some alternatives so you don't always have to say you're welcome every single time. So that's what we'll do here. I'll give you 6 other ways you can say you're welcome. Expression 1, happy to help. This is a great one. It's really friendly, and in terms of formality, you can use this expression in both professional situations and casual situations as well. So this is something I would absolutely say to my boss. So let's say my boss said, "Jennifer, thanks so much for that report." I can simply reply back and say, "Happy to help. Happy to help. Happy to help." So notice here, just for pronunciation, because I want you to say it like a native English speaker, notice I'm saying happy to help. To. That's because this preposition here is unstressed. So I'm not going to say happy to help. That's just a little too robotic. So to say naturally, happy to help. Happy to help. Happy to help. And again, show your happiness in your facial expression. Happy to help. So say it with a slight smile, and your tone will instantly be a little bit higher when you smile as well, which is what we want because happy is higher in tone. Happy to help. So just add that expression to really make this statement pop. So you can use this in any situation, socially or professionally. Happy to help. Expression 2, my pleasure. This is a great expression that again can be used in both social and professional situations. I would in fact say that this expression is more common in professional situations. So let's say my coworker sends me an email and says, "Thanks so much for helping me with the presentation." I could simply hit reply and write 2 words, my pleasure, my pleasure. Expression 3, it was my pleasure or it's my pleasure. Okay, this is very similar to expression 2. Of course, it's using pleasure again, my pleasure. So I'm simply adding the subject, it, and the verb to be. Now, I wanted to point this out because you will hear native English speakers use the longer form. So instead of simply saying my pleasure, using it, but then we have 2 different options. So I just wanted to clarify these for you because you might be a little bit confused when you hear them. So we have to remember that our verb tense will tell us what time frame this expression is in. So if I said it was my pleasure, what verb tense is being used here? Of course, it's the past simple. It's the verb to be in the past simple. It was my pleasure. So what does this tell you about the action? It's in the past, right? The action has already been completed. So let's say my coworker says, "Thanks for buying me coffee." So thanks for buying me coffee. And I could simply say, "Oh, it was my pleasure. It was my pleasure. It was my pleasure." So when I see this, I already bought my coworker a coffee. The action is complete. But let's say the situation is a little bit different. Let's say I go to my coworker's desk and I say, "Oh, I'm just going to Starbucks. Can I get you a coffee?" And they say, "Yeah, sure, I'd love a coffee. Thanks so much." And I say, "Oh, it's my pleasure." So here, the action hasn't happened yet, right? Because I offered to buy my coworker a coffee, they accepted, and now I'm going to go get the coffee. So I use "it's my pleasure" for an action that hasn't taken place yet. Okay, So it was my pleasure. You've already done the action that you're being thanked for. It's my pleasure. You haven't completed the action yet. You're being thanked in advance, basically. Okay, but both of those you can use. Now, if you're a little bit confused, do I use was or do I use is? Well, you can simply just say my pleasure, and then you don't have to worry about it, right? So always look for ways to make learning just as easy and simple as possible. And maybe this is one of those times. If you're more at the beginner level and this is confusing you, simply just say my pleasure. And then it works for past actions and future actions as well. Expression 4, no problem. This is a great one, probably one of the most common expressions that I use socially. Now, you can definitely use this in the workplace as well, but perhaps I would use it more with coworkers in an informal relationship. So every workplace has a different level of formality. Now, maybe in your workplace, you're a little more formal with your coworkers or with your boss, so using this expression wouldn't sound that natural. But if you do have a more informal workplace where you greet each other more naturally, well then definitely feel free to use this expression. It is not slang in any way. I don't want to give you the impression that it's slang. It's simply a more casual, friendly tone. So it might be appropriate for your workplace or it might not be. That's for you to decide. Okay, so again, we'll take the coffee example. So my coworker wants to thank me for the coffee I just brought them. They say, "Oh, Jennifer, you're awesome. Thanks so much." And I say, "No problem, no problem." Now, there is a slang expression that we use with this expression, and that's simply saying no prob, no prob, no prob. So this is simply, of course, taking problem and shortening it to prob. Now, I would use this orally only with my friends. I wouldn't use it in the workplace. And I would use this in text form as well, where we tend to abbreviate our words even more. No prob. Expression 5. It was nothing. It is nothing. Okay, so again, we have our was, is situation. The same rules apply. It was nothing. In this situation, I already bought my coworker the coffee. I already helped them with their report. I already returned that client call for them. The action is completed. It was nothing. It was nothing. And of course, I can say, "Oh, it's nothing. It's nothing." Of course, it is, it's contraction. That's how a native English speaker is going to say it. It's nothing. So this, I've committed to buying my coworker the coffee. I've committed to completing the report, but the action hasn't happened yet. Oh, it's nothing. Expression 6. Of course, anytime. So by using this, you're letting the person know that anytime they need help or want assistance, they can come to you. You're like saying you're open to receive requests for help. Now, we can use this both in a social situation or a professional situation. Professionally, I would probably use this with my coworkers. If I had a very casual relationship with my boss, well then I would use it with him or her. However, if I had a more formal relationship with my boss, I would probably use my pleasure or happy to help instead. All right, so now it's your turn to practice. So thank you so much for watching this video today. What did you reply back? So So decide which one of these expressions you want to use. You don't need to use them all. Maybe just learn 2 to 3 so you have some different expressions you can use. And write in the comments which one you just used. So if I said, thanks so much for watching this video.
Now let's talk about how to say no in a natural way that still sounds really professional and polite.
So let's say your coworker comes to your desk at the end of the day and says, "Can you stay late and help me finish this report?" And you want to say no, but at the same time, you don't want to hurt your coworker's feelings. You don't want them to feel like you're not a team player or that you're being rude. So you want to say no in a polite and professional way. So let's look at the different expressions that you can use. Expression 1, I'm sorry, I can't. This is a very simple but very powerful expression. In the first part, we're simply saying, I'm sorry. We're expressing regret for the situation. This sounds very polite. It will leave your coworker feeling good, knowing that you have some regret for not being able to help in this situation. Now, notice my facial expression and my tone of voice when I say this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So you can see the regret and hear the regret in my voice. That is really important. So make sure that your tone of voice and your facial expression shows the regret. And of course, we're using a contraction here like a native English speaker would. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I can't. So at the first part, we're expressing our regret. But at the second part, we're being firm. So we're letting the person know clearly that no, I can't. So that's where the no comes in with the I can't. But if you simply said I can't, well, that might be a little rude, to be honest. But when you add I'm sorry with that tone of voice and facial expression, I'm sorry, I can't. So we have regret, but firm. So very useful, very powerful expression you can use in pretty much any situation. Expression 2, sorry, I have a deadline. Notice here it's very similar to the first one at the beginning of the expression. We're simply dropping the subject and the verb to be I'm. We're just getting rid of it. And we're just starting with sorry. Now, this is totally acceptable and you could do it in the first expression as well. You could just simply say, sorry, I can't. Again, with this, make sure you have that tone of voice and facial expression to show your regret. Sorry, I have a deadline. So notice what's different in this situation. I'm expressing my regret, but instead of simply stating no, I can't, I'm providing a reason. Now, providing a reason is very powerful as well because it makes the person feel good about being rejected, basically, because they understand that it's not your choice. It's not your option. There's a situation, a circumstance, a scenario that is making it impossible for them to help you. So it is very polite to provide a reason. Sorry, I have a deadline. Now, I have a deadline is an excellent reason because it's very broad. It's not being specific. Generally, when you provide a reason in this situation, you don't want to be too specific. You can simply say something more general. Now, I have a deadline. That deadline could be anything. It could mean I have a meeting, I have a presentation to prepare for, I have a report to finish, I have an email to reply to, I have a client call. So it could mean a lot of different things, but it's strong enough that the person understands that the deadline is important and it's not optional for you to change it. So very powerful reason. Sorry, I have a deadline. Expression 3. Unfortunately, I can't today. This is very similar to expressions 1 and 2. Instead of using I'm sorry or sorry, we're expressing regret differently and we're using unfortunately. Now, unfortunately implies that the situation isn't going to happen. Unfortunately, and again, look at my facial expression and tone of voice. Unfortunately, I can't today. So by saying I can't today, in a way, I'm letting the person know that there's something happening today that is preventing me from helping. So in that sense, the person is going to interpret the reason themselves. So they might assume I have a deadline, or they might assume I have another meeting or a report to write. So I'm leaving it to the person to interpret the reason themselves. Now, you might want to be a little cautious with this one by saying I can't today, because the person might come back and say, how about tomorrow? And then you might be obliged to say yes, because generally we don't like to reject somebody twice in a row, right? We just don't like to do that. So be careful by saying today. It might get you into some trouble. Expression 4. I'd love to, but I have another commitment. This is a great expression. It's very polite. So let's look at the beginning part. I'd love to. I'd. So what do we have here? Well, we have I would love to, and we're taking I would and we're forming a contraction. I'd love to. So notice how soft that D is, I'd. But when I say it with a word after it, the sounds very much blend together. I'd love to. You almost don't hear it, but a native English speaker, we hear it. Our ear understands that sound, and you need to hear it, because the expression would not be grammatically correct if you didn't have that d. Even though it's such a soft sound, it makes the sentence grammatically correct, because without it, you would simply say, I love to. But that's not the expression. That's a present simple statement. That's not what we want. We want I would love to. I'd love to. So if you're having trouble with that pronunciation at first, you can simply say I would love to. But I'll be honest, a native English speaker isn't going to say that. We use contractions. So you're going to hear from us, I'd love to. So I encourage you to work on that pronunciation until you feel confident using the contraction. Now be careful with this one, because if you say I'd love to, the person is going to think you're accepting their request, because we use I'd love to, and notice my tone of voice is happier, it's upbeat, I'd love to. That's how we accept a request. So for this one, you have to use the but. I'd love to, with regret in my face, I'd love to, but I have another commitment. This is an excellent reason, again, because it's very broad. It's not specific. I have another commitment. A commitment could be both socially or professionally. So perhaps your commitment is you have to pick your kid up from school. Or your commitment is you have tickets to the movies tonight. So it could be socially. It could also be professionally. Your commitment is you have to send the report to your boss by 5 o'clock. You have to call your client and provide them with an update. So again, you're not specifying the commitment, but you're letting the person know that this commitment is important and I have to follow through. So it's a very strong reason, and it's a very polite reason. It's one that you can use in many different situations. I'd love to, but I have a commitment. Expression 5. I'd like to help, but I'm already booked up. Expression 5, this is similar to expression 4. Notice how we're saying I'd like to, I would like to. So we're using that modal would, I'd like to. But here I'm saying I'd like to help. So I'm including the verb. Because remember in our question, it was, can you stay late and help me finish the report? So we're in our answer, I'd like to help. I'd like to help you finish the report. Now, a native English speaker will always express their ideas in the quickest, easiest way. So we're not going to repeat the entire request. That's just not going to happen. But I might include the verb again. I'd like to help, but I'm already booked up. Okay, to be booked up. So as you know, you can book a hotel room, you can book an airline ticket, you can book any other ticket as well. But you can also book time in somebody's schedule. So when I look at my schedule and I see that, whoa, I have meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, I would say, wow, I'm really booked up today. I'm really booked up today. Or I could say, I'm really booked today. The up, turning this into a phrasal verb by using up, it's optional, it's not required. If you say, I'd like to help, but I'm already booked, that's okay too. Booked, booked up, they're the same. But again, you're not specifying how you're booked. You're not saying you have a meeting at 5 o'clock and then a report to submit and then a phone call with the client. You're just letting them know your schedule is full. Expression 6. I wish I could, but I have other plans. I wish I could. So here we're using the modal could. And again, we use could for hypothetical situations. So by saying, I wish I could, the person instantly knows right there that I can't, because could is a hypothetical. So if I say, I wish I could, I don't need to say, but I can't. It's implied already. So instead, I just simply can provide my reason. I wish I could, but I have other plans. So this, again, is being very general in your reason why. You're not specifying what those plans are. However, if you say you have other plans, it does imply socially. So it implies that your plans are something that's taking place after work, not necessarily for work purposes. So if you want to use one that implies both work and socially, you can use the commitment or a deadline instead. So it's your choice. Feel free to mix and match these reasons and mix and match the expressions as well. Have some fun with it. All right, so now you have 6 very natural, very polite, very professional expressions that you can use the next time you need to say no to your coworker.
Now let's talk about alternative ways that you can say goodbye. You can absolutely say bye or goodbye. It's grammatically correct. The problem is that it sounds very formal, and native speakers don't really say goodbye. We say goodbye, but then we add on a natural expression. So let's talk about natural expressions you can use in everyday situations like shopping, at the grocery store, at a restaurant, or dealing with a customer service agent. You can say bye, but then add on take care. Bye, take care. Now you can also say take care and then bye. Take care, bye. Or you can simply say take care.
Take care.
You can say have a good and then whatever the time reference is. Have a good day, morning, afternoon, evening, night. Or you can say have a good one, which is general to any situation. Have a good one. Bye. Take care.
Have a good one.
A quick tip is that native speakers commonly combine multiple expressions like I just did. Bye, take care, have a good night. It's very common to use 2, 3, or more expressions, so feel free to combine them. Now you can replace the adjective good with a different adjective. Have a wonderful day. Have a fabulous afternoon. Have a fantastic weekend. You can say bye for now, which implies that you're going to see that person again. Bye for now. Or you can say enjoy the rest of, and then the time period. Enjoy the rest of your day, your night, your evening, your weekend, your vacation.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Now, I created a free lesson PDF that summarizes all the greetings from this lesson. You can look for the link in the description or the comment section below. Now let's talk about saying goodbye to your friends. The most common is see you soon, see you later. A common one is also talk soon. Bye, talk soon.
See you later.
I'll see you later.
Now, if you have a future date planned with that friend, you can say, see you next weekend, see you tomorrow, see you at the party, and reference that next event. You can add can't wait to add some excitement. Can't wait to see you next weekend. Can't wait to see you at the party. You can say, bye, it was so nice seeing you. Instead of so nice, you can add, it was awesome, it was amazing, it was wonderful, it was lovely. And instead of seeing you, you can add, it was lovely catching up, it was lovely having dinner, it was lovely chatting. So you can add different alternatives to that expression. If your friend is getting into a vehicle, you can add bye, drive safe, bye, have a safe trip, be well. Now, if you don't have a next date planned with your friend, you can add something to show you want to see them again. Bye, let's catch up soon. Don't be a stranger. Keep in touch. This is a very common one. Bye, keep in touch, take care. Now let's talk about some more informal slang expressions. You can use these with your friends, your family, or even with your coworkers as long as it's a more informal situation. We commonly use gotta. Got to, gotta. I gotta go. I gotta jet. I gotta head out. I gotta take off. I gotta hit the road. I gotta get going.
It's my 6 o'clock. I got a jet.
You can also say catch you later, which just means see you later. Catch you later. And notice I took you and reduced it to ya. Catch you later. Catch you later. Sometimes we just say later, later. A fun expression is catch you on the flip side. I have no idea what the flip side is, but catch you on the flip side. Catch you on the flippity flip.
I'll catch you on the flippity flip. Bye.
Some people say peace out. I personally have never said this, but I do hear it a lot from some other speakers. Peace out or simply peace. So if that suits your personality, you can use that one.
Peace out.
One of the most common informal expressions is just see ya. So we take see you later and we reduce it to see ya.
Okay, bye. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Let's talk about some expressions you can use with your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, spouse, life partner. Bye, my love, my love. And we say it in such a nice voice. Bye, my love. I miss you already. I like that one. I miss you already, even though they're right there. I miss you already. Bye, my love.
I miss you already!
I miss you too!
Now we can use our pet name for each other. Bye, sweetheart. Bye, sweetie. Bye, cuddle bear. Bye, my darling. Or whatever your romantic name for each other is. And if you have young kids, you can use this really cute expression, which goes, see you later, alligator. Do you know what comes next? In a while, crocodile. But just use that one with young children. Now let's talk about professional expressions that you can use at work, in a job interview, a networking event, or conference. By looking forward to seeing you again soon. Looking forward to working together. So notice the gerund verb we need. You can also use a noun, looking forward to the conference, looking forward to the project. If you're meeting someone for the first time, you can say, bye, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure meeting you. It was nice talking to you. In a job interview, we generally express appreciation. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I look forward to hearing from you. The interviewer will also express appreciation. Thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for your time today. We'll be in touch shortly. Notice that expression, in touch. We'll be in touch soon. We'll be in touch shortly. Superiors can add some words of encouragement by keep up the good work, the great work, the amazing work. Or they might say, if you need me, I'm a phone call away. By, if you need me, I'm a phone call away. You know where to find me, which is letting you know you can just text me. You know where to find me. I'll be on my phone. You know where to find me. Or a common one in the office is, by, my door's always open. And that's encouraging you to come back if you want to discuss anything or if you need help.
My door is always open.
Woo, there are so many different ways to say goodbye. So have fun adding these to your vocabulary. What's your favorite expression? Leave that in the comments below. And remember to download the free lesson PDF that summarizes everything. The link is in the description below. And keep improving your vocabulary with this lesson to help you sound fluent and natural. And you can get your free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can get that on my website right here. So now get started with your next lesson. Now you're going to learn over 50 different words that you can use to share your opinion professionally and naturally in English. Now let's get started with first sharing your personal opinion. Let's say you're in a work meeting and you have an idea you want to share with everyone. We should hire a marketing expert to build our website. You can absolutely say that, but you can sound more professional, more advanced if you use an opinion word. Now, there are many different phrases you can use to share your personal opinion. I recommend starting with 2 to 3 that you like the most, and then you can add more once you get comfortable with them so you have variety and you're not always using the same one. Here's the list. In my opinion, as far as I'm concerned, from my perspective, from my point of view, personally, I think that. In my view, I'd say that. I believe that. I strongly, firmly believe that. I'm convinced that. There's no doubt in my mind that. I feel that. In my mind, it seems to me that. So let's take our idea again. We should hire a marketing expert to build our website. As far as I'm concerned, we should hire a marketing expert. In my opinion, in my mind, personally, I think that we should hire a marketing expert. So you can use any one of these, and remember, variety is key. You don't always want to say, in my opinion. You can absolutely use that, but you want to have variety. Now let's talk about agreeing with an opinion. So you're in a meeting and a colleague says, we should postpone the conference. Or your colleague used an opinion word and said, I firmly believe that we should postpone the conference. Now let's say that you agree with your colleague. What can you say? Well, again, here's a big list. Start with 1 to 2 and add them as you get comfortable. I agree. I agree with you. I think so too. That's a good point. You're right. Definitely, absolutely. I second that. I couldn't have said it better myself. I couldn't agree more. We're on the same page. You hit the nail on the head. So your colleague says, from my perspective, we should postpone the conference. And you say, I couldn't agree more. We should postpone the conference. You're right. We should postpone the conference. Absolutely, we should postpone the conference. I agree with you. Now let's say your colleague shared an opinion that started with, I don't think. I don't think we should postpone the conference. Personally, I don't think we should postpone the conference. We have one very specific phrase that you can use when you want to agree with a negative opinion. Do you know what that is? In my mind, I don't think we should postpone the conference. Neither do I. Neither do I. You only use this when you're agreeing with I don't think. Neither do I. Now let's talk about disagreeing with an opinion. So you're in a meeting and your colleague says, in my mind, we should look for a new supplier. Now you don't agree. What can you say? You can say, I disagree with you. I'm afraid I disagree. On the contrary, I understand where you're coming from, but I respect your opinion, but that's a good point. However, I see your point, but I have a different perspective. I think, can I share my opinion? That's one way of looking at it, but have you considered the fact that? Now, the first one I shared, I disagree with you, is probably the least commonly used because it sounds argumentative. And we generally want to say this softly to someone. So it's way more common to say, I'm afraid. I'm afraid I disagree with you. It makes it a lot softer. Or you could acknowledge that I respect your opinion, but I don't think that's a good idea. I respect your opinion, but I think we should keep our supplier. My personal favorite in this category is I understand where you're coming from, but, and then you share your opinion or whatever information you like. I understand where you're coming from. This is another way of saying I respect your opinion. I understand where you're coming from, but right now isn't the best time to change our suppliers because it's our busiest time of year. We should wait until Q4. And remember, you can add your personal opinion words as well. From my perspective, in my mind, from my point of view, we should wait until Q4. So you can absolutely combine these different opinion words together. Now let's talk about sharing a general opinion. So something that most people would agree with. Here's a statement. Repetition is key when you're learning any new skill. Now, I personally believe this, but it's not my opinion per se. This is just a commonly held opinion by most people, by many different people. So here are some general opinion words you can use. It's said that, it's believed that, I've heard that, it's considered that, it's generally accepted that, most agree that, some say that, it goes without saying that, researchers, experts suggest that. So I could say it's generally accepted that repetition is key when you're learning any new skill. And personally, I agree. And personally, I couldn't have said it better myself. So you absolutely can share a general opinion, but then agree with that general opinion using one of the phrases you've already learned. Or maybe you want to disagree with this statement. Well, then of course you can use one of the phrases to disagree. On the contrary, repetition isn't that important. I'm afraid I disagree. Repetition isn't that important in my mind, and then you can share your opinion. And finally, let's talk about how to ask someone for their opinion. So let's say I shared a general opinion. Most agree that repetition is key when learning a new skill. And I want to ask for your opinion on this specific topic. I can say, do you agree? What's your opinion? What do you think? What are your thoughts? What's your view? How do you see the situation? What's your take on it? What about you? How about you? Has that been your experience? What has your experience been? Are we on the same page? Is that something you would support too? So if you're talking to someone who's currently learning a new skill, it could be really interesting to ask them, has that been your experience? What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree? Finally, let's talk about all the essential job interview vocabulary that you need to help you sound fluent, advanced, and natural so you land your dream job. Let's get started with the first question that you're going to be asked. Tell me about yourself. When you're asked this question, you absolutely must use the expression, I have more than, over, or almost 10 years of experience. And then you can add as a and your job title. As a project manager, as an accountant. Don't forget that article. It's very important that it's there before your job title. Now, you can also talk about your experience in a particular field. I have almost 20 years of experience in the project management industry. I have more than 15 years of experience in the IT sector. So you can use field, industry, or sector. Now notice you have more than or over. That's when the number is greater than. And then you have almost. That's when the number is less than. So if you actually have 13 or 14 years of experience, well, it sounds better to use a round number like 15. So you can say almost 15 years of experience if you have 13 or 14. Now, you can add to this and tell us more about your responsibilities in that role. So you can say, in this role, which is your role as a financial analyst, in this role, you could also say in that role, it doesn't matter, in this, that role, I was responsible for. Or you can say, I am responsible for, was if you're viewing the role as complete, and I am responsible for if you're currently doing that role. I was responsible for. Now after this, we need a gerund verb. So you can use many different verbs to talk about your experience. These are the most common verbs you can use. In this role, I was responsible for managing, overseeing, leading, coordinating, creating, developing, reviewing, improving, streamlining, and analyzing. Of course, you can use other verbs, but these are the most common. Now, streamlining, this means improving the efficiency or effectiveness. So as a financial analyst, you could say, I have over 20 years of experience as a financial analyst in the IT industry. In this role, I'm responsible for overseeing a team of 15 people, and I'm responsible for streamlining our operations. Now, in a job interview, you absolutely want to use more academic or formal adjectives. You don't want to say, I have a lot of experience. That doesn't sound very strong or convincing. It sounds a lot more impressive if you say, I have extensive experience. I have significant experience. So those are two must-know adjectives that you should use in job interviews. Extensive and significant, which simply is a more formal way of saying a lot of. I have significant experience. And again, after this, you need a gerund verb. You can use any of the verbs I've already shared, and of course, you'll have specific verbs for your industry and your specific job title. I have extensive experience creating international marketing campaigns for a variety of industries. Now, after this expression, I have significant, extensive experience, you could also use a noun. I have significant project management experience. I have significant financial analysis experience. So you don't have to use a gerund verb, you could also use a noun. If you're asked about your education or your credentials, you can simply say, I have a Bachelor of. I have a Bachelor of Science, a Bachelor of Arts, a Bachelor of Engineering, whatever that may be. Now, you can end it there, but you may also choose to identify the school and the year you graduated. Those aren't requirements, but if you went to a prestigious or well-known school, or you recently graduated, those might be useful details to include. I have a Bachelor of Science from Cornell. I graduated in 2020. You could also use the verbs received or obtained, which are more formal than have. However, it's extremely common to use the verb have. I have a bachelor, I have a master, but you can absolutely use received or obtained to use the more formal version. I received my Master of Education from Cornell in 2020. I obtained my Master of Engineering from MIT in 2019. If your credential is a certification, you can use the verbs I received, I completed, or I obtained. I completed my PMP in 2019. Now notice here I use an acronym, PMP. If I'm applying for a job in the project management industry, they know what a PMP is. It's the most prestigious certification in the industry. It stands for Project Management Professional. So there's no need to identify an acronym if that acronym is well known in your specific industry. Let's talk about your personal strengths. The interviewer is likely going to ask you, what are your strengths? What would you say are your 3 best qualities? So here you can use a transition word. As for my strengths, that's just to introduce the point. As for my strengths, I'm extremely, and then you can list the quality. Now notice here I use the adjective extremely. This is a more convincing adjective than I'm really or very. You want to avoid those common adjectives because they don't stand out, and it's way more convincing to use a stronger adjective in a job interview like extremely. I'm extremely hardworking, which sounds stronger than I'm really hardworking. Let's review some common adjectives that you're going to use, and for all of these adjectives, you're going to use the verb to be and then list the adjective. I'm extremely hardworking, committed, trustworthy, honest, focused, methodical, proactive, a team player. For a team player, you can't use an adjective. You're simply going to say, I'm a team player. You're not going to say, I'm extremely team player. That doesn't work. I'm a team player. Now let's talk about some specific skills you should highlight in your interview. Now the following skills are rated as the top 10 skills that employers want. Of course, the skills are specific to your industry, but you can take this as a general list of skills that would be useful to highlight during the interview. And to talk about these skills, you can say, I have. And for an adjective, you can say, I have advanced, I have superior, I have excellent, and then you list the skill. I have excellent time management skills. I have superior communication skills. I have advanced adaptability skills. The other top 10 skills are problem solving, teamwork, creativity, leadership, interpersonal skills, attention to detail, and work ethic. For work ethic, we have a very specific adjective, and that's strong. I have a strong work ethic. So this is the specific expression for work ethic. I have a strong work ethic. So let's say you want to show off your communication skills. I have superior communication skills. Now let's say the interviewer wants to know why you're interested in this specific position. You could say, I'm looking for an opportunity to further or to develop my X skills. So your project management skills, your teamwork skills, your financial analysis skills, whatever the specific skill is. You could also say, I'm looking for an opportunity to gain experience in, and then you can talk about a specific field, industry, or sector. In the IT industry, in the project management field, in the marketing sector. You should absolutely have a conclusion. Don't just say, thank you for your time. You should leave them with a really strong impression of your skills and your ability to complete the job and be an asset to the organization. So you can say, I believe that, I know that, I'm confident that my extensive project management skills would make me a valuable asset to your company, your team, your organization. And I look forward to the opportunity to contribute to your goals. Of course, you should take this and adapt it to your specific industry or role, but you absolutely want a strong conclusion statement to impress the interviewer. You just learned a lot of vocabulary, and if you want to keep learning, I suggest watching this lesson next. And make sure you get your free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can download the guide right here, and now get started with your next lesson.